sees the means of production, and the like and subscribe button. The remarkable there's so much to say about this because it might actually be one of the worst things I've ever heard about a Democrat, or sorry, not about, from a Democrat. It might actually be one of the most, like, because we talk a lot about Democrat incompetence and Democrat abstemiousness, but this gives the game away so much. Like, it's not anything new. We know they feel this way, but first of all, framing this as their government as opposed to the, the American people's government that they currently control. Is he wrong, though? Yeah, he's wrong. First of all, no Republican is this defeatist. Did they talk this way after Obama won everything back in 2008? No. Maybe some of them did. This guy's the House leader, or minority leader, you know? He's doing this in a press conference. It's just, I don't think he thinks he's lying here. I just think that he's that ideologically captured. I think that Democrats legitimately don't understand that it is possible to change people's minds. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, it kind of makes sense in the context of their, like, consultancy-based understanding of the world. When Republicans are on the back foot on an issue, they will lie and argue and lie and argue and lie and argue until people agree with them. They will do anything and everything they can. That's why people's perspective on immigration has changed so much from 2020 to now. But I don't think Democrats think that's possible. I think when Democrats are, disagreed with on the issue, they're like, well, it's not that we need to convince people that we're right. We just need to acquiesce until we arrive at the position people are already at. It's kind of the ratchet effect, right? Republicans push to the right, then Democrats prevent you from going further to the left. But this tone, like, he is one of the highest ranking Democrats, and he is essentially signaling we will do nothing. Like, nothing. And it's so whiny too. It's not even like a matter of having the stones to acknowledge, like, okay, well, we don't care, or we agree with them on this issue or another. Time for a third party. I don't think you can make a third party in this environment, but the Democrats are doing everything in their power to make themselves irrelevant. The crazy thing is, 4 years ago, I thought the opposite was happening because after January 6th failed, my understanding was, and I apologize, I really do, I apologize for my naivete. I thought Merrick Garland and Biden would do literally anything. Like, Trump literally attempted an insurrection that failed, and there was a huge wave of public backlash against him. Even Republicans were distancing themselves. Republican voters were like, okay, hold on. I thought, my assumption was that Trump would be legally collapsed, and without Trump, the Republican Party would be basically irrelevant. They would no longer have the sauce needed to continue the party, at least not for a few elections. Obviously, that didn't happen. And now the Democrats are signaling greater irrelevance than Republicans did in 2008. Or in 2021, after Jan 6 failed. So maybe there will be a third party. I don't know. More likely a Third Reich. Well, it would be a fourth one now, right? Independence with Bernie. We have got to cut ourselves away from this expectation, man. It's so fucked that Bernie's 1,000 years old and he's still like the main go-to. I mean, it's bad for Republicans that that's the case with them too. But we are going to try to find bipartisan common ground. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. On any issue, we will work with anyone in this town to get things done for the American people, to lower the high cost of living, secure the border, and keep our communities safe while defending dreamers, farm workers, and families at the same time. Not even saying anything oppositional, just that he's like selectively complicit in the doing of the administration. Again, like, I don't think they can change people's minds. I genuinely think that ideologically they don't believe that's a thing that can happen. Republicans were more defeatist after Romney lost than they were when McCain lost. And you know what? If it wasn't for Trump, they would have gotten trounced in 2016. Hillary was a really bad candidate, but any other Republican primary frontrunner would have lost but Trump. because Trump was the Republican Party's realization that the only way forward was to kowtow to dumb, hyper-nationalistic populism. And they did it, and because of that, they won. And they needed Hillary to be the weak candidate that they opposed. A lot of things had to work for that to be possible. But now they've molded themselves after that. The Democrats have done no such thing. They've moved away from it. How is this appealing to Republicans? It's not. The Democrats still operate in a dead ideological framework where bipartisanship is a desirable value. No Democrat, and I mean none, want their elected representatives to get along with Republicans. Have you talked to a liberal lately? Like a regular, they're angry. No one's buying this. It's not 2009 anymore. The average liberal voter is not out here going like, well, I'm glad Hakeem Jeffries is willing to work with Trump on whatever, shared interest they have. They're furious. The Democrats are ideologically irrelevant. It's not just lefties. It's generally across the board. Isn't this like a perversion of the end of history? To an extent, yeah. I think you could make that argument for sure. Where like the Democrats are operating on the assumption that because everything that can be done has been done, the only thing that's left is to make like marginal appeals to bipartisanship within the framework of what people already agree. They don't want to make a case for anything they believe in. They just want to say like, well, we'll do our version of what the Republicans are doing. Oh, is immigration unpopular right now? Okay, then we'll lean into that. Whatever. We don't really have any principles. Republicans have principles. They're just evil principles, Jeffries met with Silicon Valley donors to try to repair relationships with them. That's great, man. We'll also let you rummage around in the federal government and unconstitutionally block payments if you want to. We'll also let you operate as like a de facto fourth branch of the government. We're willing to work with you on... It is difficult to make arguments against Jeffries that don't sort of denigrate into angry, like frothing at the mouth, physiognomical critique. Because his dead fish eyes are actually like, they're distracting. Like when you look at them, it feels like every other criticism fades away and you just want to attack him for that. Because it's really bad. Like it's really bad. It's worse than almost any other politician I've seen. At least a lot of Republican politicians just look evil. Like they look animated in their evil. He's unique in this. Why would oligarchs choose a party that won't give them complete control? They're obviously going to go for the one taking the guardrails off. Yeah, no, it literally, even in meetings with the oligarchs, he's still adopting that framework. We can be a lesser version of the party you do like. That's what we offer. We don't offer anything different. We can be a lesser version of the party that you do like, Freaky shit, man. Has anyone else noticed a rise in the Nazis were actually socialist propaganda? They've been running with that one pretty aggressively since Trump first took office. I don't think that's necessarily new. The singular focus was, how do we ensure Silicon Valley remains with Democrats, said one of the people who participated. Because right now, Silicon Valley is feeling very purple. That's great. If the Democrats are weak and unwilling to work towards change, what changes this situation from any other in politics in the US? We can't rely on third party, can we? What else is there to do? To be honest with you, I don't really know. From a logistical perspective, just making a third party isn't going to happen. A hostile takeover of the Democratic Party by like a younger, more populist wing seems more likely, but also pretty unlikely. It's just tough. Like the DNC, there's so much legacy and momentum and weight that like the idea of it being taken over by a young feisty group of, somethings, it's difficult. I don't know. I mean, the most you could really say is that because the average Democratic politician seems to be completely spineless and have no real beliefs, if the population ever gets so sick of Trump that it becomes possible or I guess like imaginable to them to appeal to that sentiment, then maybe they would. I don't really know, but it's pretty bad. Yeah, I don't know. I think the big look, I mean, the big like indicator we're going to get will be 2026, right? Because whatever like shambling zombie, animated remnant of an electoral system that persists up to that point, there is going to be backlash against the Democrats and the Republicans. For sure. Because by then, we're probably going to be deep in the wake of whatever economic crisis the Republican administration has foisted on us in favor of enriching like 5 people. And the Democrats will have continued to do nothing. And my hope is that we get some genuine dark woke shit going on from some Democratic reps. There are Democratic reps, mostly junior congressmen, who are angry, who are rhetorically competent, at least to some extent, who might see the writing on the wall leading into 2026, and they're like, wow, people distrust the DNC so much that I could win here on anti-Democrat sentiment. Not from the right, but from the left. Like, I can do what Bernie Sanders and AOC couldn't do. Bernie and AOC ran in a country where the Democrats were liked enough that being openly anti-Democrat as a lefty wasn't electorally viable. And it wasn't, trust me. But now, with Hakeem Jeffries acting the way he is, maybe some young enterprising Democrats are like, no, I can literally just go in and say, like, these guys. They've given us nothing. All of these Democratic reps have done nothing but open the doors up to Trump's administration. They're complicit. And I'll show you, a different way. And maybe they'll be a lot louder and more aggressive. Maybe they'll be more boorish. Maybe they'll call Trump a... I don't know. I think that's a bit of wishful thinking. Well, I do wish it. Yeah, I'm not going to... Yeah, for sure. It's wishful thinking. Yeah, please. Wish upon a star. That being said, if something good happens, I think that's kind of the way it would happen, right? Like, that to me seems like a viable avenue for that sort of change. I feel like it's more likely than a third party opening up, at least. Maybe. It's a more promising trajectory. Anyway, let's listen to this dipshit for a minute more.
We have repeatedly made that clear, but Republicans have decided to go it alone. That's what the budget reconciliation process is all about. And so we're ready, willing, and able to work with our Republican colleagues and the current administration, as I have repeatedly stated, on any issue.
Just more appeals to bipartisanship surely will address the situation. I don't know what they're doing. Something good will happen if I just keep appealing to bipartisanship.
In order to make life better for the American people. That's why we're here. We've made clear from the beginning. There's a season to govern and a season to campaign. We are in the governing season.
You might note, by the way, that he's not even really criticizing the Trump administration here. Like, I know he has a bunch of headlines here saying, like, oh, tariffs are bad for the economy, but he could be going off right now. I mean, he could be saying, like, oh, we'd love to work with Republicans on lowering costs for the consumer. Unfortunately, they seem to want to raise it. We'd love to lower the cost of homes. Sadly, the people in power right now seem to be most interested in raising the cost of homes. But again, this would take a spine and even a little bit of charisma. I've never seen a person so anti-charismatic. Genuinely.
And so we're ready to work together on any issue. But I'm also confused about the leverage that we allegedly have in the face of such an overwhelming mandate that was given to
saying what Republicans have is an overwhelming mandate when he won by 1.8% is literally just fascist propaganda that you are engaging in right here. Can you imagine if the SPD, after Hitler was appointed, was like, well, we'd love to oppose Hitler on the whole, Gestapo rounding up Jews bit, but like the overwhelming mandate of him losing the election and then getting appointed by Hindenburg, and then following that like a sus election where you had no choice but to vote for him, otherwise you'd be like shot in the back of the head. The overwhelming mandate that Hitler has, what are we going to do to oppose it? I can't believe he'd say it. It's collaborationist is what it is. Like, let's acknowledge it goes beyond mere incompetence. Like, whether it's because he knows he's lying or because he's ideologically incapable of understanding what he is and what moment he's living in. And I think it's both to an extent. There could not be a worse Democratic minority leader in the House. I genuinely think that you could go through every single Democrat, find me one who'd be worse than this. At least some of the more reactionary members of the House would have more of a personality. Find me one worse than this.
Republicans by the American people, according to them. We're looking to find common ground and to get to an agreement that meets the needs of the American people in terms of their health, safety, national security, and economic well-being.
That's easy, Fetterman. I said House.
Pretty simple. It's all we want to do. How do we best protect the American people in terms of their health? Includes, but is not limited to, Medicare and Medicaid, along with the Affordable Care Act. How do we get to an agreement that protects the American people in terms of their health, their safety, their national security, and their economic well-being?
I'll wait for the answer. I don't care if I can't hear the question. This shit must go hard.
Yeah, we were very disappointed in 2017 because,
Oh my God.
once again, the Republicans decided to go it alone, as opposed
Jesus fucking Christ, dude. Oh my fucking God.
to working with Democrats in a common sense way.
He literally can't, like, he's literally unwilling to refer to his political enemy as the enemy. Like, Republicans will go on the news and call him a child bag piece. Every Democrat wants your daughter to be abducted by Tren de Aragua. Like, he literally cannot. They could win all 3 races and he would walk with them. He could, yeah, literally. Like, what would Kamala Harris winning have really done? That's me being facetious. There would have been a huge difference. But in a lot of ways, they would have just went and worked with the Republicans anyway. Yeah, I should be clear. I'm painting with such a broad brush that I'm being inaccurate here. Obviously, the difference would have been massive between Trump and Kamala winning. But in terms of like the long-term complicitness of the Democratic Party,
we House Democrats are the common sense caucus. Instead of working with Democrats in a common sense way to actually find bipartisan agreement in 2017 around...
Nancy Pelosi is 1,000 times better. Oh God, absolutely, yes, 100%. Nancy Pelosi dog walks this guy, not even close.
Called tax reform. They decided to jam the GOP tax scam down the throats of the American people and set up a situation where 83% of the benefits would go to the wealthiest 1% in America. And every single Democrat said, we can't support that because that's not in the best interest of the American people. Now understand, if you go...
I think this right here, what he just said, might actually be the most important thing to learn from, which is that when Republicans do something evil, Hakeem Jeffries frames it as them merely failing to identify what the best thing for the American people is, as opposed to them having a fundamentally different set of interests. The myth that both Republicans and Democrats are working to do the best thing for the American people, and Hakeem Jeffries is chastising them here for not arriving at the correct solution, betrays either his poor understanding of the situation or his lying to benefit Republicans because they don't have the same interest, at least not nominally. The Republicans are evil. They want evil things. The things they want are bad. They don't care about the well-being of the American people. What's wild is that the Dems aren't working with a steep hill here. Only 53% of people think he's doing a good job. Yeah, and he's on week 3. Like, he's not working with a huge mandate here. Yeah, his overall job rating, according to the CBS News poll, is 53%. That's not an overwhelming mandate. He's in the honeymoon period of his first of the election. Here's Gary Connolly, head of oversight for the Dems, also saying Trump is a mandate. Well, I sure am glad this 74-year-old geezer with cancer, who's dying of cancer, was chosen for this position over AOC, a person who commands far more attention and respect from the actual voting people as opposed to the consultants they listen to.
The public did not give Trump a mandate to dismantle the whole chunks of the federal government. Gave him a mandate to...
I can't, I'm trying to think of ways of saying this that aren't repetitive and also don't get me in trouble. Okay, I don't think Jerry Connolly is like paid opposition. I think there are limits to what they are capable of thinking of. It's not just they disagree with leftists on some things. There is literally like a fundamental ideological failure. You know, it goes beyond, like, this weakness is born of a set of failing principles that can't be corrected for with an argument and showing them the right poll numbers. It's anti-dialectical. I agree. Yeah. Like, they're on the wrong end of the dialectic. Like, the liberalism was the central thesis for decades, and then it was countered with neoconservatism. So liberals countered with neoliberalism. Now neoliberalism's run its gamut, and Republicans countered with fascism, and Democrats are still running the neoliberal line. They're acting like it's the Clinton years. They haven't advanced to the next step in the dialectical back and forth. And because the next step would be socialism, we're never arriving at a synthesis. It would at the very least be populism. Yes, it would at the very least be populism. Informed by socialist politicking, but yes, whatever you prefer. Yeah, it is the West Wing brain. Sorry. I've intellectually compromised myself by getting angry, you know? You know the Republican thing where they can't tell a joke properly because they get angry mid-joke? um I've done that, except instead of trying to tell a joke, I was trying to make a point. It's really tough. How do you manage to get a left populist take to the American working class without having to throw your own core supporters under the bus in the process? Uves, that's the crazy thing, and that's how you know the reason why the Democratic establishment doesn't kowtow to left populism is because of their donors, not their voters. They wouldn't throw any of their core supporters under the bus. Literally no Democrat voters would have been hurt by the party leaning in with Bernie Sanders. Literally none. It would have been no one would have been hurt by that except for, like, I don't know, pharmaceutical executives or whatever. The Democratic voter base is to the left of the Democratic Party. Certainly when it comes to economic populism.
Back to 2017, which your question relates to as a reference point, there was a conversation about lowering the corporate tax rate to make sure America could be more competitive. And the corporate tax rate, as I recall, was at 33%. 33%. And the Obama administration budgets had indicated that we would be prepared to drop the corporate tax rate to 28%. That was the Democratic position. Far-right Republicans were saying...
It is kind of hard, though, when the people most opposed to socialism in this country are the working class indoctrinated by Red Scare BS. You don't have to frame yourself as a socialist at all. You just don't have to. I guarantee you that if the Democratic establishment had fallen behind Bernie Sanders in 2016 the way Republicans did Trump, 99% of the Democratic electorate would be fully in favor of his brand of democratic socialism. The only reason there wasn't, the people who were most uninterested in Bernie Sanders' message were people who were most establishment inclined. And that means wealthy white people and black Democrats. Why black Democrats? Because a lot of them are relatively moderate, but very loyal to the Democratic Party because, I don't know, there's something the Republican Party keeps doing with black people. I don't know what it is, but they seem not to like it very much. And they were being told over and over and over by Joe Scarborough type motherfuckers that Bernie Sanders is like a hypocrite, that Bernie Sanders is going to bring socialism to the United States, parentheses bad, that Bernie Sanders was like a maverick outsider who wasn't actually loyal to the Democratic establishment and its values. If they hadn't been disseminating all that propaganda, I guarantee you people would have fallen behind him. And likewise, if the Republican establishment had treated Trump all the way through the same way the Democrats treated Bernie Sanders, Trump wouldn't have ended up being the nominee. Anyway, people will gravitate towards socialism as a solution unless they are told not to. It is the correct solution. At the very least, answers in that direction. The specific implementation of socialism, obviously, bit of a historical tight spot, not easy, but some basics, universal health care, we need to rein in the wealth and unrestricted power of the oligarchs. These things pull extremely well, and they have for a long time, you know? You need to be convinced out of those positions in order to not hold them. Kind of like being anti-gay marriage. In a society where marriage exists, you would think you'd support gay marriage too. Why not? What's the harm? The only people who don't support gay marriage are people who have this like obscene labyrinthine explanation. You know, they have to be convinced into it. I don't think people are naturally bigoted. I think they have to be convinced into bigotry, you know? I don't think people need an argument against it. I think the default position is one that is anti-bigotry because people default towards like empathetic and pro-social tendencies, right? If you grow up in a neighborhood and you're hanging out with a bunch of people of different races, ethnicities, whatever, and you're just chilling, you're not going to one day like wake up and go, you know, oh, actually white people deserve like a safe haven for the future of white children or whatever the You need to be taught that shit, which is why racist, religious people, whatever, groom their children at an early age to hold that bigotry. People don't usually like suddenly spring into it for no reason, like when they're 25 or something. Whatever. I've made my damn point.